I guarantee that you've heard of megafauna, even if you don't realise it. Mammoths? Check. Woolly rhinos? Check. T-Rex? How could you not? But hang on, does T-Rex count? There's a common conception of megafauna, and T-Rex doesn't really seem to feature in it. And what about the blue whale, the largest animal to ever live on Earth? Where's that? Does that count as megafauna? Well, let's find out. But first, just quickly. My last video on caffeine really took off, so I just wanted to take a moment to thank all of you who watched and liked and commented on that video. I'm looking into making some changes to my filming and editing practices to hopefully cut down on some of the uncanny valley features that some viewers noticed. Please let me know what you think. This is my normal setup, but without any kind of AI quality enhancement. Anyway, with that out the way, megafauna. The term megafauna comes up quite a lot in some fields of biological research, often to do with the extinction of some iconic ancient animals like mammoths and mastodons and the South American giant ground sloths. Many of these animals have gone extinct in the last few tens or hundreds of thousands of years, and even the groups that have survived have done so at greatly reduced diversity. And in some cases this is a very, well, relatively recent event. The last mammoths were still alive on Wrangel Island in the Arctic Ocean after the construction of the pyramids at Giza, with the most recent remains carbon dated to around 4,000 years ago, while the pyramids were constructed about 4,500 years ago. The large herbivores and carnivores of each continent tend to go extinct after the first arrival of humans, possibly hunted to extinction. This is called the overkill model of megafaunal extinction, and while evidence in its support is potentially circumstantial in some cases, we can see similar things play out in recorded history. For example, wolves and bears have been hunted to extinction in much of their original European range just in the last few hundred years, and both American and European bison would be other great examples of humans hunting populations of large animals to very close to extinction. Is this why we can't have nice things? It's of course worth noting that the overkill model is contested by some, and that other theories related to environmental changes do exist. For example, megafaunal extinctions in some parts of the world could have been caused by habitat alteration as global climate warmed and deglaciation occurred at the end of the Pleistocene epoch. Whether changing climate or human colonization, or some combination of the two in conjunction with other factors is responsible, is still not fully understood. When we're trying to do this research and answer these kinds of questions, it's important to have as complete as possible of an understanding of both past and present ecosystems. And this is where the term megafauna becomes relevant. Studying trends in biodiversity and extinction requires compiling and sifting through lots of data. And I mean lots of data, often representing tens of thousands of species over millions of years. One way to make this daunting task easier is to split those data into different categories, representing different sorts of animals. And that's what megafauna is, a category to place animals in based on their size. Body size is a crucially important trait of all animals, either linked to or influencing many other factors of their biology. Things like their lifespan, their geographical range, their population density, and the rate they can reproduce at are all linked to body size. Therefore, understanding patterns related to the evolution and global distribution of body sizes has become a key research goal for many scientists. Bigger animals tend to need more space to live in to get access to enough food, while they will also tend to live longer but also have fewer offspring. To demonstrate this, elephants can live for 60 to 70 years in the wild, but have only a single 120 kilogram calf at a time, after an eye-watering 22-month pregnancy. Meanwhile, dogs only live for between 10 and 13 years on average, but can have 5 or 6 puppies per litter, again on average, up to a possible maximum of 2 to 3 litters in a single year. So that's basically it. Megafauna is a label scientists use for animals above a certain size, as a way of researching them and better understanding all manner of things about how they live and evolve. But I said something there. Certain size. What is that certain size? Where's the cutoff point? One of the most common definitions that is still used in much scientific research is that anything heavier than 100 pounds, or around 45 kilograms, counts as megafauna. From mammoths and whales to T-Rex and Diplodocus. And even us. Under that definition, I'm megafauna, and there's a decent chance that you are as well. But that cutoff, while useful for some research, is essentially arbitrary. We could draw that line anywhere we choose to. Megafauna aren't a real thing, it's an invention of scientists to help make sense of a vast and complicated world. And we could choose that definition based off of anything. We could draw it anywhere we want, even based on things other than overall size or weight. Another common method involves defining categories based on both size and also position in the food web, or slightly more accurately, where in the trophic cascade the animal sits, and therefore what role it plays in the ecosystem. This is called a guild-dependent model, and it defines categories like megaherbivore and megacarnivore. Megaherbivores are usually defined as the largest herbivores, the ones weighing more than 1,000 kilograms, with that large size often hypothesized to be an evolved defense against predators. Animals of that size will often have significant impact on the landscapes that they live in, such as by regulating the extent of tree and other vegetation cover. Probably the most obvious examples of past and present megaherbivores would be mammoths and elephants. Megacarnivores are the top of the food chain predators, weighing more than 100 kilograms. These prey on large herbivores, but not usually the giant megaherbivores. Animals like lions, tigers, polar bears, and also the extinct hyenodont Simba kubwa would be good examples of megacarnivores. This guild-dependent model also defines the categories of large herbivore and large carnivore. Large herbivores weigh up to 999 kilograms at the top end, and as low as the human-inclusive 45 kilogram bracket at the bottom end. Think things like horses or deer. Large carnivores, on the other hand, weigh 100 kilograms at most, or down to 21.5 kilograms at their lower end. These regulate ecosystems in the same way as the megacarnivores, by preying on the large herbivores in a way that regulates their abundance. Wolves are probably a pretty good example of a large carnivore. Again though, even though this guild-dependent method is at least based on a model of ecology and ecosystem function, rather than just a simple weight class cutoff, the exact boundaries are still essentially arbitrary, just another convenient way of making unbelievably complicated natural processes graspable by the scientists trying to research them. It can lead to some strange issues in some cases. For example, male giraffes are big enough to count as megaherbivores, but the smaller female ones aren't. That's a split within a species. And can we definitively say that that split has any real biological meaning? While I'm megafauna, there is a chance that you watching this aren't. And can we really say that there is some true meaningful difference between a herbivore that weighs 999 kilograms and one that weighs 1,000 kilograms, just a fraction of a percent more? Probably not. This sort of thing is actually quite common in biology. For example, the whole practice of taxonomy, that is, describing species and placing them into different groups like mammals or birds or crocodiles, is essentially arbitrary. While it is an evidence-based and data-driven practice, the exact cutoffs and criteria that we use to either merge or separate new groups of animals is pretty much entirely up to whichever researcher happens to be working on it at any given moment. For example, the red colobus monkeys of Africa have had at least a dozen different competing taxonomies published in the last 50 years, recognizing between 1 and 16 species. One factor underlying this variation in this example is that different researchers used different definitions of what they even considered a species to be. Another good example of this is the term mass extinction, which I'm sure all of you watching this will have heard before. A mass extinction is defined as a short event in geological history, usually lasting no more than a few million years, wherein 75% or more of all species alive on Earth go extinct. And there have been 5 of these big mass extinction events in the last 540 million years, since the start of the Phanerozoic eon. But here's the thing, that 75% cutoff is, yeah, you guessed it, it's an arbitrary cutoff devised by scientists as a useful way of identifying and isolating those events in the fossil record so that they could be studied and understood. Now, I know it sounds strange that terms like this don't necessarily have a concrete foundation and can be defined and altered basically as needed, but that doesn't mean that they aren't useful. As I already alluded to a couple of times earlier on in the video, the world and its history are massive and complicated, and having ways of at least semi-consistently identifying and classifying things allows us to get a stronger grip and firmer understanding of what's going on, so that we can then work to understand it more deeply. I hope you've enjoyed today's video and are comfortable with being one of the megafauna. Basically just an invented term that is used as a research tool to better understand the world around us. Thank you for your time.